The landscape in downtown Hampton could soon be changing. Tomorrow, leaders there are going to vote on a proposal to sell several properties and revitalize the area.
They hope to add retail shops, office space, apartments or condos, and restaurants. 13 News Now reporter Nico Clemens has the story.
I think it's a great idea.
City leaders ready to revitalize downtown Hampton.
I think it would definitely improve it.
City Council was prepared to vote on selling 16 acres of land in the downtown area and allow a developer to build from the ground up. The developer's proposal includes retail shops, office space, apartments or condos, and townhouses.
I'd like to see a farmer's market.
The city also plans to transfer about 5,000 square feet of Carousel Park to the EDA. The EDA plans to lease the land for a proposed restaurant.
I think we need to bring more people into downtown Hampton.
Louise Holder lived in Hampton 12 years. She now lives in Pocosin. She brought her 2 great-grandchildren to downtown Hampton to ride the carousel.
They want more and more.
Holder always thought something was missing.
The shops would certainly help.
Yeah, this proposal isn't new. City leaders have been working with proposed developers for 2 years to do something to the downtown area.
For someone to come in and basically say, okay, I'm willing to develop from the ground up, that in itself is a major accomplishment.
Mayor Donnie Tuck says they've been purchasing these properties over the last 12 years. He says it took some time to hammer out the final legal agreements to sell the property.
I think there were some hiccups. I understand that some of the delay was on the part of the city, other parts were on the part of the developer, but I think the fact is that now we're ready to go forward.
Many like Holder say development in downtown Hampton is long overdue.
I think they've needed it for some time.
But they're ready. In Hampton, Nico Clemens, 13 News Now.